Now, let's talk about the Docker container monitoring, and in more particular, the matrices and the events that show all the information about a container. And this is because when you work with Docker, especially in production, one of the most important things is how to measure the performance of your containers. It's important to define a comprehensive strategy to monitor your Docker infrastructure with a collection of sources, events, statistics, configuration, records, and many more. So even though there are several ways to monitor the performance and to control the execution of Docker container, we always need to visualize the logs to observe the statistics in the containers. Those statistics have a very big importance, and the most important are the statistics for the CPU monitoring and for the memory usage. So most applications send logs to a standard output, and usually when you're using Linux and other operating systems, you're normally having standard input, standard output, and standard error. So it is normal and it makes sense that the logs are part of the standard output for the system. We can see the logs directly in the console while the container is running and we enable them. So log management is probably the most important task in the world of security. And this is because it allows you to monitor what is happening inside your containers. And different containers can run simultaneously in the same Docker host, and each of them can generate their own logs. So a centralized management of the containers is quite necessary. So for example, if you want to check the logs for a particular container, of course first you need to run the container. So let's run a Redis container and let's have a look at its logs. So if you do docker container ls, you'll be able to see the ID of that container, and let's do docker log and then just place the ID of your container. And as you can see, you can have the access of the logs immediately. So you will see the version, you will see that the container has been initialized and it is ready to accept connections. You can also see things like the port, basically everything that is happening while the container was created and while we're executing it will appear right here in the log section. So in this case, the Docker engine collects all of the standard outputs of containers in an execution log file. And if you write docker logs -help, you see all the options related to logs, so you can either follow them, for example, follow the output, you can get additional details, and so on. So now on our side, if you want to check the statistics of one or more containers in real time, you can use the stats command. So write docker stats, and here you will be able to see the stats of the container that is currently running. So if you want to check the options and some additional information for the stats, you can do docker stats -help, and you can see that the stats display a live stream of the container resource usage. So when you write the stats command, it will display you all the stats of all the containers that are currently running in your device. So I will create another nginx container, or actually let's create a Redis. So let's do my Redis 1. Let's then do my Redis 2. Okay, so now we have 3 containers running, as you can see. And now if I do docker stats, okay, you will basically see how much CPU is used by each container, how much memory is used. You can see that this is a very little, just 2 megabytes. What is the limit of storage that they have? You can see 7 gigabytes, and also the internet that they have. Okay, you can also see, of course, their name and their ID as well. So if you want to monitor quickly your containers and pretty much see how much resources they're using because you suspect some memory leak, then you can definitely use the Docker stats for that. So another metric that we're going to look at are the events into the Docker containers. So every process in every container normally generates a flow of events in the container lifecycle. So the docker events command is helping to see the lifecycle of events occurring in real time in absolutely every container that Docker is using. The sequence of events is useful for monitoring scenarios and performing additional actions such as receiving an alert when a specific task ends. So when we're running many containers in the Docker host, it will be useful if we can see the container events in real time in order to monitor or debug them. So let's see how we can use the Docker events. So firstly, let's open a terminal, and there you can type Docker events --help, and there you can see the different options. Mainly you can filter between the different events, so you have different filter options here. So you can normally filter by ID, container, event, image, plugin. So it pretty much depends on how you want to structure your output. You can also use the --since and --until command in order to monitor processes for a particular time frame. And let's actually try that. So let's do docker events --since, and then let's do 2021-01-01. Okay, so from the beginning of 2021 until 2022-10-10. Okay, so you can see here that since I had containers running within that time period, and actually all of them, they are run on 7th of October 2022, you can see all of those event logs right here. And so from here, they're ready for analyzing. If you want to have a look at the official Docker page for checking out the events and dig into a little more detail into how to collect and filter events, you can definitely use that page on the Docker Hub. So that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. And in the next video, we will talk about performance monitoring.